Are we on?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Gary Grotto, the executive editor of the Arizona Capital Times, and welcome to Meet the Candidates. Tonight, we'll present the second in a series of Meet the Candidate events, and we'll do one each night the rest of this week. At this point, I want to thank the Arizona Citizens Clean Election Commission for sponsoring this event. The Clean Elections Commission administers the Citizens Clean Elections Act, which the voters passed in 1998. The act seeks to restore citizen participation and confidence in the political system, improve the integrity of the Arizona state government, and promote freedom of speech in the Arizona and U.S. constitutions. So to tell us more, please welcome Tom Collins, the Executive Director of the Citizens Clean Elections Commission.
Hi, thanks, Gary, and thanks everyone who's tuning in and joining us tonight. This is the third election cycle we've worked with the Capital Times on the Meet the Candidates event. So it's been a really great success, and we think it provides an opportunity for candidates to interact in a little more informal way with the public and with the journalists like Gary from the Capital Times. We've partnered with the Capital Times on our debate series for legislative candidates as well, so it's been a really rich partnership that we really think benefits the voting public. Just a quick reminder, we're in the middle of early voting now for the August 2nd primary, so if you have a ballot, you're going to want to make sure you vote that ballot. If you have any looking for information on how to participate, the candidates who are out there, their statements and interest, you can log on to our website at azcleanelections.gov. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Tom. So just a few housekeeping notes. I just want to remind the viewers and the candidates that this is not a debate tonight. The candidates are here to tell you about their campaigns and try to persuade you to vote for them. And it's an opportunity for you, the voter, to send in your questions. You can do that by putting them in the comment section below. We'll try to get through as many questions as possible tonight, and we'll be bringing the candidates out in groups. And after every group of candidates, we'll take a short break, a minute or two, before we return with a new group. And finally, if you could subscribe and like the Morning Scoop channel, we'd be very grateful. Tonight, we're going to present Legislative Districts 7 through 12, with the exception of Legislative District 8, where none of the candidates agreed to come on with us. So it's just 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12. In the meantime, we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be back with the candidates. Welcome back, and we're here with Legislative District candidate David Cook, Representative David Cook, I should say. He currently represents Legislative District 8, and Kyle Nitschke. Did I say your name correctly, Kyle?
Thanks, Gary.
And he's a Democrat running for the Senate in Legislative District 7, and Representative Cook is running for the House. So welcome, gentlemen. And, the first question I'm going to ask is, why are you running for office? Representative Cook, why do you want to get back into the sausage making business?
Well, I first ran in 2016 because the industry came to me and
there's always been a rancher at the state legislature before we were a state. And there were a lot of ranchers down there. And over time, that has filtered out to be, single ranchers. And so when Senator Steve Pierce was termed out in the Senate, the industry came to me and they said, listen, we've always had a rancher down there. We got to find somebody that's willing to give up and serve the people. And so I decided to do it. And so in 2016, I ran for the state house and LDA. This is my fourth election. I'll be turned out after this in the state house. And I think I've been very successful. And what I didn't realize is that how important it is to have someone like a rancher at the state legislature, of what it brings to the table of all the business people, all the educators, all of the makeup at the legislature. I understand now why Arizona was started generally with mostly ranchers, and why it's so important to have someone that has a thought process like myself down. And so I'm looking forward to expanding the district in which I currently serve into a larger one. We have lost 2 rural representatives in the state house and 1 senator. That's just how the census turned out. And I'm ready up for the challenge.
Thank you, Representative. Kyle, where are you running?
Thank you, Gary. So my name is Kyle Nitschke. I'm running for state senate, and I was born and raised here in Arizona, and that's part of the reason I'm running. Currently, our state legislature's priorities are backwards from how Arizona voters actually feel. My mom was a public school teacher for over 30 years in our Gilbert and Chandler public school districts. I'm a product of public schools. And I remember when I was going to school, my mom taught the elementary school where I went. It was months before the end of the semester, the years around the recession, she was reaching out to the PTO for paper just to print out worksheets. I don't need to tell our listeners that education has not been properly funded here in the state, and not just K through 12, but pre-K through higher education. In my work with the Arizona Students Association over the last few years, we've been advocating for more accessible and affordable higher education and training and developing student leaders at our public universities. And I really think in some of that work, we have been watching the state legislature, lobbying on behalf of bills. I think most Arizonans would be shocked seeing what goes on in a day at the state legislature. My state senate opponent spent more time trying to overturn the 2020 election and advocate hundreds of millions of dollars to a border wall than they did focusing on issues that Arizonans care about, advocating for education, dealing with drought, and dealing with our housing crisis here in the state. And so that's why I'm running for state legislature.
All right. Well, I'll start. You can have the go first on this next question. So, what do you see is the job of a legislator?
Absolutely. So the primary job of a legislature is to make our state budget. Our budget is really where our priorities are as a state. And so currently, we actually fund the Department of Corrections more than we do every single community college and university in the state. And I think that's really backwards of where I think most Arizonans would want our money going. We should be investing in a future for our high school graduates, and we should be ensuring that every student has the ability to go to university or community college or a trade school or go into the workforce. But we need to make sure the students have options, and we do that by investing by our priorities and creating a budget. And I believe we can invest in education. It's in the long run the most cost-effective and smart thing we can do as a state.
All right, thank you. So, Representative Cook, I mean, you've been a legislator for 6 years now.
Yeah.
What's the job of a legislator?
Solve problems. The constitutional duties of the state legislature is to approve a budget. That's true. But it's not just to approve the budget. It's to evaluate policy in which it affects the people of your district. And so when you look at all the policy and the changes, whether it's insurance, whether it's commerce, everything, what I personally do, and I would love to debate the young man on what he said, but what I personally do is I represent the people of my district first, and then as a state lawmaker, you look at what affects the state in its entirety. And so long in rural Arizona is that we have been sacrificed. We've been the sacrificial people. We always get people to come out to rural Arizona and say, hey, vote for us and do this stuff. And then we never see them again. And so I didn't realize what it was like until you get into the sausage making business like it was. And that's what has driven me down there, is that I paid the political price on numerous accounts for doing the right thing for the constituents of my district. That's why I've been the top vote getter every in every single election as a conservative Republican is because I like to solve problems and I like to help people.
All right. Last night, Representative Kavanaugh said the job of a legislator is to be a judge. So, but he doesn't want to be Judge Kavanaugh. So, the next question I have is, the governor just signed an $18 billion budget, and so what are your thoughts on the spending priorities? Representative Cook, you voted on this.
Yeah, I voted on it, and so if we hear what we hear from one-sided groups and the single-minded people about education is that if I just tackle that one issue, is that we have increased education spending since I was elected in 2016. And so when the Speaker Mesmer came to me, and there were 7 other Republicans, and there's only 2 of us left down there, only one of them running for re-election, that's me, they said, we're going to give teachers a 1% pay raise. And I said, that's a joke, right? As a product of my children, which are 23 and 21, graduated from the same high school, the same building as I did in 1986. And so when I understand rural education has different challenges than what the metro area in Phoenix does. So we've increased the funding. We've given 20% pay raises. And in this budget alone, we've given another $1 billion. And one thing we're going to have to tackle next is we tackled this year. Always you hear about education. And I hate single subject stuff, but there's never enough money. But when you say, well, what's enough? Well, how much is it? We've already exceeded the constitutional limits of the state, what we already are giving to education. And now we need to come back and fix the ceiling of that and raise that limit just like we did for community colleges. So I can debate the part about rural Arizona. Remember, that's the district we're talking about here is in rural Arizona. So what have we done? Number one is the Prop 301 tax for just Gila County alone was being paid by those taxpayers for 17 years. Over 14 legislators, Senate and House members alone, Democrat and Republican, all came to Gila County voters and said, we're going to fix this. But they never did in 17 years. So those people were paying a tax, being divided up between community colleges, and we weren't getting anything back. I fixed that my first year down there. What have we done for community colleges? 4-year degrees. Now children can stay at home, graduate high school, and get their 4-year degrees from community colleges. Now, up in Coconino, their community colleges isn't going to expand to 4-year degrees because of the relationship they have with Northern Arizona University. If that works for that community, then great. But we have expanded those opportunities, made it cheaper for rural kids to stay home and get their education. And in fact, we're going to have to come back and address the expenditure limit because we are funding education at amounts that have never been seen before in this state.
Thank you, David. And we got 5 minutes left, Kyle, so keep that in mind.
I'll be quick. Republicans and David Cook will love to lie to our voters and say that we've increased public education funding since 2016. But on a per pupil basis, that's simply not the truth. Our education spending isn't even to where we were at in 08 and 09. We are vastly underfunding our public education system, and we're seeing it in how we're seeing teachers in droves. We've now had to expand to allow teachers without college degrees into our public education system. And that's because of a lack of investment from state legislatures, from our state legislature. I also want to talk about in the budget, we talked about we're funding education, and he won't mention the massive bailout to private and charter schools through our universal voucher system. Republicans love to go on and on about school choice. There is no school choice in the charter and public school system. They get to choose which children allowed into their schools. But what we are really doing is we are defunding the public school system, and we're giving money to these private and charters while not really taking care of the most vulnerable. 90% of Arizona students attend public schools. We need to invest in education.
Thank you, Kyle. So what should be the priorities in the 2023 legislative session? Representative Cook?
I'll go again. Number one is there's a numerous things. So we just passed a historic water bill that just happened like that. We're going to have to see how that filtration's out and about what that's going to bring to Arizona because we are in an emergency there. We gave another $75 million to the Department of Forestry. We have got to stop the burning up of our rural communities and our watersheds and the devastation that leaves behind in fires and floods. There's a lot of things that we're going to have to focus on, which you're going to need someone that knows about those issues to address them. And so when you hear about, well, charter schools and private schools, I'm sorry, but in District 7, that is not our issue. We don't have a charter school every 3 miles down the road, like in Chandler or Gilbert or whatever. We have public district schools, which are being funded today at levels they've never seen. We have dual enrollment that is exploding. In 2016, those schools had maybe 3 or 5 dual enrollment credits, which have now over 56. So it's a pipeline to go on to the universities and stuff. Another thing we got to look at is that the revenue coming into the state, as the tax cut bill, which I held up last year, we need to make sure that those projections are coming in as we safeguard that. As a conservative, we are paying for those tax cuts in the right way, which is paying off debt. If you want to say that in last year's budget, we had the most historic tax cut in the state's history, well, what was also in that budget that the media, especially the Capital Times, doesn't talk about, is we had the most historic debt reduction for the state times 10. That was last year with $1.5 billion of debt reduction. And this year we added another $1.3 billion in debt reduction. That frees up those interest payments going forward. And that's that money that we freed up with the debt reduction is how we invested that $1 billion, about $521 million ongoing. School districts are calling me saying, we've got $8 million. We don't know what to do with today. And I say, invest in the arts, invest in band programs, invest in those people that aren't the stars of the quarterbacks or the football teams or the basketball teams. Invest in those students that have other things and other skills that aren't like in the sports program. And so it's been very well accepted.
Okay, we got 2 minutes, Kyle.
Some minorities, the flat tax is a big bailout for the wealthy and our corporations. 7 in 10 Arizona corporations pay the $50 minimum corporate tax rate in the state. We need to make sure that the wealthy and our corporations are paying our fair share and investing into the system. I've talked way too much about education already tonight. So let me mention that abortion is healthcare and abortion is a human right, and we need to expand access to abortion within the district and within the state. I am a Moms Demand Action Common Sense gun safety candidate. We need universal background checks, red flag laws, and common sense gun safety measures that all Arizonans agree with. I'll also mention that we need to give control back to our local governments, as far as especially in Flagstaff dealing with the housing issue. The state legislature has really restricted what our cities can do in responding to this crisis. So that would be a priority for me as well. Thank you so much for your time. And
You hit it almost on the mark there. So I just want to say thank you to you gentlemen for coming here tonight and letting the voters know a little bit about you and what your platforms are and your campaigns are about. And good luck on your campaigns. And thank you again for joining us.
All right, thank you. Have a great night.
thank you, Eric. David.
I'm Gary Grotto, the executive editor of Arizona Capital Times, and thank you for joining us tonight. Now we're moving on to Legislative District 9, and with us we have Eva Birch. She's a Democrat running for Senate. Lorena Austin, who is a Democrat running for the House, and Seth Blattman, who's a Democrat running for the House. So welcome aboard, and we've got about 20 minutes to do this, and it goes fast. So I'll try and move it along here. So what's the first question is, why are you running for office? Let's start with Lorena, since she's on my right.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having the LD9 Democratic Slate here team tonight. My name is Lorena Austin. I'm running for House of Representatives, the new legislative district number 9. And I'm an educator who works at Mason Community College, but I'm also like a majority of working class Arizonans who works 3 jobs just to stay afloat. And that's why I'm running for office. I'm running because I think our legislature needs to be representative of the communities that we serve. I'm super proud to be a 5th generation Arizonan. My family lived in Arizona since the 1860s, and my family's actually lived in this district since the 1920s, so almost 100 years. My non-Tata owned a grocery store in our community that really not just was an integral backbone of our community, but also advanced minority issues in Mesa. And so I'm super proud to come from this working class background. And I'm interested in being a representative that is an advocate for our community and fully funding education, addressing our housing crisis, and a climate crisis that's affecting all Arizonans. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Lorena. Eva, why don't you take the floor?
Sure, it's Eva. Thank you.
Eva, okay.
Yeah, no one gets it right. That's okay. I'm Eva. And again, thank you for this opportunity. I'm so happy to be here and to have a chance to introduce myself to the voters. Deciding to run was a process. I've lived in Arizona my whole life. My dad and his family have been here for several generations. And on my mother's side, I'm a 1st generation American. She came to the United States from Norway in her 20s. I've been a nurse for over 10 years, currently as a nurse practitioner, but the bulk of my career has been in the emergency department, in emergency nursing. I was a single mom when I was in nursing school, and I relied on federal student loans and publicly funded healthcare and numerous support systems to get me where I am today. Since then, in my career, I have seen how access to healthcare has been influenced in our communities by so many different factors. Insurance status, most outwardly, but also housing insecurity, food insecurity, poverty, access to quality education, transportation, so many things. And I think the people of Arizona need someone who understands the challenges that patients and providers face and is committed to being an advocate for them in the state Senate.
Thank you, Eva. Seth.
Yeah, my name is Seth Blattman. I am running for state representative as a team with Lorena Austin and Eva Birch. And I grew up in Arizona. I'm a business owner here. It's a family business. I took over running about 10 years ago. I had just finished graduate school, and I was asked to come home to take over running it. This is coming out of the Great Recession, fallen on some tough times, needed some new direction, some new leadership. So of course I said yes, it's because I felt I had a responsibility to my family. And I now feel that same responsibility to my state. I love Arizona. This is where I grew up. And in many ways, we're doing very well, but in many ways, we're not. Currently 49th in the nation in how much we spend on education. By all accounts, this is backwards. The voters voted on this multiple times and shown their will to be the opposite. But yet we keep underfunding education year after year. My goal is to fully fund education. My goal is to build an economy that works for everyone, that works for small businesses, that works for working class families, and reforming government. That's a big one of mine. As I said, the voters have said that they want to fund public education, yet our legislature does the opposite, the current majority. That tells me there's something wrong with our system. So I'm going to look at structural reforms, government ethics reform, campaign finance reform, fighting voter suppression, extending access to the ballot box to as many people as possible. I believe that the more people that have access to the ballot box, the more people vote, the more representative our democracy is. And the more representative democracy is, the stronger our democracy is. And those are some of the issues I want to work on, and look forward to your questions.
Well, Seth, what's the number, I guess, for fully funding education?
Well, at a minimum, we need to do what Proposition 208 asked for, which was about $800 million to $1 billion. We got out there, we collected signatures, hundreds of thousands of them. We voted on this. People of Arizona said, yes, we want to invest this money. Yet the legislature, did the opposite. And being 49th in per pupil spending is bad by anyone's, anyone's definition. Being bottom 5 in anything is bad, let alone how much we choose to invest in our children's future. I think getting us out of the bottom 5, out of the bottom 10, is not too much to ask. Getting us to the middle of the country, let's start there.
What about you, Eva?
No, I can just piggyback directly off of what Seth just said is that, I would like to see us leading the nation in how we value the education of our communities, rather than being at the bottom of the barrel consistently. And I hear that question a lot, and I know it comes from Republicans a lot, where we hear, but when is it enough? We're doing what we can. We've increased our funding, we've increased our funding, but what's your metric? If your metric is what do we look like along with the rest of the country, we need to be at least competitive, and that's the sort of standard that I would set.
All right, Lorena, you're anything to add to that?
I would say enough funding would be when we're number 1 in the country. And so to this, my teammates have obviously laid it out very well, but I will just go with a story of one of our constituents in our district. I knocked on a door yesterday in 115 heat because we're very committed to this race, and talked to a parent who has a child with a disability and was concerned about the state's funding in public education, and currently has to send their children to a charter school, but would rather we had enough funding to send them to a public school because they wanted their child to be around other children in their community. Our children learn from one another, and public schools are the backbones of our communities in a lot of cases. I mean, these schools are providing breakfast and lunches to our students year round. So to hear that from a parent that currently has to send their child to a charter school, when we should be fully funding education, public school education, to ensure that every single child in Arizona has access to a public school that can meet their needs.
So I'm sure you guys have read about, the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. What needs to be done to push back on what's happening in Arizona right now? In context of Roe v. Wade. Eva?
Sure. So I'm a nurse practitioner and I work in reproductive health. And this is an issue that is incredibly important and personal to me. I know that every circumstance is unique. And I think that the right people to make decisions about reproductive health are patients and providers. And I think that we should be writing and passing legislation to protect access to reproductive health care in Arizona. And I will not support any measure to ban or restrict abortion in this state. It's something that is such an important part of what I do as a provider. And I know how hurtful this policy can be. And we have to do whatever we can to push back against it.
Thank you, Eva. Lorena, any thoughts?
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, it's a private matter between someone and their healthcare provider. Eva's a great asset on our team because we can ask her questions because she literally deals with this every day in her profession. Also, I just like to point out that this is going to hurt some of our most marginalized communities. And it already is. People that come from more backgrounds will have access and resources to get a safe reproductive health care, and our marginalized communities will not. So I will be committed to advocating for the rights of all Arizonans to get accessible, equitable reproductive health care and healthcare in general.
Seth?
I don't think the government should be getting involved in a personal medical decision between a patient and their doctor. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm a man right now, and when I hear women from all across the state, and we know that a vast majority of women and really just people support the reproductive rights of women and all patients. Yeah, I mean, the 1864 ban is it's written in, what is it, 1864? 54, 74, something like that. It's old, it's outdated, and the legislature passed a 15-week ban that doesn't supersede that. My goal is for the Democrats to take the majority. We are 1 seat away from blocking, 2 seats away from the majority, and then rolling back the horrible restrictions that the current majority is putting on a basic constitutional right.
Okay. So the governor just signed an $18 billion budget. What are your spending priorities? Lorena.
Education, as an educator, obviously that's a huge one. And I really do believe that the expansion of school vouchers, it continues to get our educational system and it continues to undermine our educators, our teachers, and our staff. It also continues to deny incredible opportunities for our children to really thrive in their livelihoods. I'd also look to tackle inflation. I mean, knocking on doors, this is something that's huge, that's affecting all facets of community members in Arizona. So strengthening supply chain, promoting competition to protect consumers, investing more in American companies so we don't have to be beholden to basic goods that come from overseas. I would also really like to look at climate is another huge issue facing all Arizonans right now. I want to ensure that we're creating policies and investing in solutions like collecting more rainwater or stopping groundwater from being transferred to aquifers. There's a lot of things that we need to address at the state in general, but I'm looking forward to working with this team to do exactly that.
What do you do at Mesa Community College?
I'm a student government advisor, and I'm super proud of it because I'm a Mesa Community College alum. Go T-Birds. I was student body president there many moons ago. And I thoroughly enjoy my profession.
All right, Eva?
Yeah, I mean, there were several things that happened that were good. The 1.2 billion to public K through 12, included base funding, but also money for special education and provisions for low-income students, support staff. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but this still leaves us again at the bottom of the pack nationally. Our per pupil spending is still far behind what it needs to be for us to be competitive. So that would be a priority for me. We are investing over $1 billion in spending for water infrastructure and conservation over the next 3 years from this budget that just passed. I think that that's a step in the right direction, but again, not where it needs to be. My priorities really would be again, education for sure, whether we're 49th or 45th, because I've heard both numbers being thrown out there after the increase that we just had, but that's not a reflection of our values in Arizona. It's, increased funding for education is incredibly popular with the people of Arizona. So these cuts and diversions have really far-reaching consequences. We're losing teachers to out-of-state positions. We're lowering our standards for hiring teachers in response to that, and ignoring the serious problems that we have with classroom sizes, support staff, and availability of books and supplies, technology. We have multiple large companies operating out of Arizona. We don't have enough of a well-educated pool of talent for them to pull from, and that contributes to out-of-state hiring, which is exacerbating our cost housing crisis. So other priorities for me would include water conservation and solutions there, infrastructure investments that include repair and expansion of what we already have, as well as expansion for cleaner mass transit options. We also have significant challenges with access to healthcare and should be investing in a system that does not leave children and the poor and the elderly or the disabled behind.
Thank you, Eva. Seth, we got about 7 minutes left, and I'd like to get one more question in afterwards. So the floor is yours.
Try to be concise. But I will repeat education. 50% of teachers leave in their first 5 years. Teacher pay is some of the lowest in the country. Classroom sizes largest in the country. Counselor-student ratio is the worst in the country. Crumbling infrastructure. We need to be fully funding these schools. To repeat myself, but it's worth repeating. Also, we are facing a period of economic uncertainty. I think we all realize this, a time of rising prices. We need to be focusing, our attention on, what's coming and how this is going to affect working class families. As Lorena mentioned, we knock on doors every day, talk to people in this community. We need to invest in the housing trust fund. We got a bit of money in this last budget, but people are really hurting out there right now.
Thanks, Seth, and I'll let you answer first. I don't think I've let you go first yet tonight. So what do you see as the job of a legislator? And we got 4 minutes left for the three.
Okay, the job of a legislator is to represent their legislative district and the state. Its job is to represent their community. The job is to represent everyone in their community. I'm not going to the legislature to represent Democrats or independents or Republicans. I'm going to represent everyone. And I am looking out for their best interests. And again, the job is to build consensus and pass legislation in the best interest of the people. I think our current legislature focuses a lot on passing bills that they can campaign off of or partisan warfare, but less focused on the needs of the people of their district. And I can say with certainty that all three of us are going there to actually help the people of Arizona.
Thanks, Seth. Eva?
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself, Seth. That's exactly it. I mean, I think one of the key things that I think people are looking for in their elected leaders is availability, though, I would say. I mean, it's my job, if elected, to be a voice for the people in my district. And that means making myself available to them, to answer questions, to hear concerns, and to bring those issues to the table in the Arizona Senate. We create and we pass a budget. Yes, we write and pass laws, but that budget and those laws should be a reflection of the needs and the concerns of the community. And I know that I'm well suited to do this kind of work because it's very similar to what we do as nurses in the clinic, in the hospital setting. It's my job to understand the needs of my patients and to organize and advocate for them. And that's my commitment as a legislator, to be an advocate for my community.
All right, Lorena.
Sure. Hard to follow those two, but obviously I agree with my team completely. I'm really excited to be in this position as a legislator because yes, we pass laws and create budgets, but also I want to rebuild the trust in my community with our legislatures. That's really the core of what I believe this does. And so I will work and fight hard to ensure that that's the case. And when in instances Arizona voters overwhelmingly and bipartisanly vote to fund education, that legislators that are elected say, no, sorry, you're wrong about that, and not listen to them. So I want to be a representative, and I know we want to be representatives that are actually listening to our constituents and bringing back their best interests to the state, because that's exactly who we work for.
All right. Well, thank you, team. We still got like a minute left, but I'll go ahead and sign off for this group. Good luck out there on the campaign trail, and thank you for coming. And maybe we'll see you down at the legislature.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Welcome back. I'm Gary Grotto, the executive editor of the Arizona Capital Times, and we are back with candidate Helen Hunter, a Democrat running for the House in Legislative District 10, and David Farnsworth, for the Senate, Republican. Senator Farnsworth, are you there? All right, he must be having technical difficulties or something, and we'll just go ahead and start with you. There he is.
Hello.
Welcome on board, sir.
Thank you.
So the first question I've asked everybody is very simple. Why are you running for office? Helen, can you kick it off for us?
Well, I'm running for office because I'm not happy with what I'm seeing across my city and state and country. I'm running for office because I believe it's a civic duty, not a privilege, but a duty, just as it is to vote, pay taxes, and obey the traffic laws. I'm also running for office because I like to see a better community. I call it ABC, a better community. I'd like to leave this place in a better state than for my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. I think it's our duty to, responsibility to when we're not part of the solution, we're part of the problem, and to work to make our place a better state to live.
Thank you, Helen. Senator Farnsworth, I seem to remember you said you were retired. or you're retiring from the legislature. What happened?
Yeah, my story, my answer is a little more complex than that because I was in the legislature twice for a total of 9 years. Turned out a couple of years ago and retired and happy. I was content. And then the phone calls started coming in that I needed to come back and run. And first phone call, I said, no, don't want to. I've been in that swamp too long.
Uh-oh.
But I got more phone calls insisting that I was needed because, quite frankly, Speaker Bowers had changed. You know, I've known Rusty for years, and in fact, we sat next to each other in the legislature for 2 years, physically right next to each other. Got along fine, and I always considered him a conservative, good legislator. But apparently, after he became Speaker of the House, many people felt like he had changed drastically. And so I was literally drafted to run for that purpose. And I kind of felt like in the Bible, felt like Jonah. I wanted to jump on a ship and sail away. But there is a lot that needs to be done. And so I'm here to do my duty, and I'm passionately engaged in trying to win the election for the good of our state. And of course, the final straw was when my wife Robin encouraged me to run, and that pushed me over the edge of agreeing to run.
All right, thank you, David. So I'm sure you've been keeping up with what's been going on down there. You know, the governor just signed a budget. What are your thoughts on the budget as a conservative?
That's a question for me.
Yes.
Way too high.
Mm-hmm.
I had a philosophy about the budget the time I was in there. Generally, I would express my feelings, but when it came down to it, I would usually agree to vote on the budget. In my opinion, it was always too high. And certainly this year, with the big surplus we had, it was a great opportunity to reduce taxes and cut spending. That's my nature. When you have money in the bank, that's the time to be more careful, not more frivolous, which is human nature. If you have money in the bank, you want to spend it. I think certain good things happened. But overall, it was too high. And of course, how you get there is very challenging. I know there were some folks that wanted, or I heard there were some conservatives that wanted tax decrease, and they didn't get what they wanted, so they withheld their votes. So the leadership had to go out and buy votes from the other party. And it sounds really bad, but that's a reality of what happens at the legislature.
Ellen, what are your thoughts on the budget?
Well, I'm the opposite. I think the budget is way too low, especially when we have a $5 billion surplus in our state coffers. And we see that the schools are not funded, especially the public schools are not funded as they should and need to be. The parental and teacher resources are not being resourced like they should be. I think that our fiscal policy should focus on making sure that poorer and lower income residents, citizens have an opportunity, access to their basic needs. And I believe that the more wealthier, well-off members of our state should also have the opportunity to pursue their goals and their desires. But overall, I believe our budget should make sure that the people who need it the most are taken care of in our state. And I might add, I have great concerns about homelessness and the rising prices of housing and rentals. that just is pushing our homeless rate even further. And back to the Bible, as Mr. Farnsworth mentioned, the Bible says we should take care of the very least of these. And when you do it unto the least of these, you do it unto our Lord and Savior. So even if you're not religious, I believe in the golden rule. I'm a strong proponent to do unto others as you would have them do to you. We need to take care of the less fortunate. And we have the funds to do it.
Thank you. So,
excuse me.
one part of the budget that, or one of the things that happened last session was that made Republicans happy and angered Democrats was school vouchers. Helen, why are school vouchers a bad thing?
I believe
that's what you think.
I think, as I see it, I think it's not distributed equitably, and I think there's a lot of room for profiteering and a little bit of a lack of integrity as how it's being dished out and meted out. I believe that the voucher program is fine as long as the same opportunities that are provided for the families who ascribe to the voucher program, the same benefits and opportunities are provided to the public schools and the lower income folks. A lot of lower income folks cannot buy into and take advantage of the voucher program, and that no child should be left behind.
David, is it a good thing?
Actually, I was very excited about that. That was one of the best things that happened, I believe. In fact, when I was in the legislature about 25 years ago is when we introduced charter schools and school choice. And so I've been a proponent of school choice forever. And I am excited about this because I think it is very fair in that the money stays with the child. It puts it in the court of the parents where they decide where they think their children will prosper most, whether it's in public school, private school, charter school, or homeschool, or online school. There's so many opportunities. And I think education in Arizona is becoming more and more beneficial to the children of Arizona as there's more opportunity. I believe in competition, and I think the competition where it's open to everybody will improve the education in all areas. Now, I agree with Helen that there are some concerns. There are bad apples in every barrel, and so there'll be some people trying to take advantage of it, and we need to be very aware and vigilant that money is not being wasted. But I think we have great opportunity, and if I'm not mistaken, actually what is being called the voucher system, the child in that program actually receives less money than the ones in public schools. So the public schools still receive the 100% of the funding, and vouchers are a lesser percentage. I don't remember the percentage, but I really think it's going to be good for everybody. Like they say, a rising tide raises all boats. I think it'll be good for public schools, as when we started giving grades to public schools, we saw, I believe, an increase in quality education as public schools had to compete with each other. And so it's kind of an old-fashioned concept, but competition makes things better. And I just am really excited about what happened this year.
Well, I'm not comfortable. I'm not happy with the competition when we're vetting kids against kids. That's what it seems like to me. And I do agree with Mr. Farnsworth that there is some benefit to the voucher program. I just think it's being abused, especially when teachers are not being paid. And Arizona is like 49th, I think, in the country as far as their school grades. I don't have all the technical information, but I do think that there should be a little bit more compromise, and that the voucher program, I don't disagree with it, but it's the expansion I'm sorry about, especially in light that the Proposition 208 was, we didn't see the monies from that the taxpayers voted in. So
and if I can interject, I think something that Helen and I will agree with is that one of my biggest frustrations being in the legislature is when we voted for more money to go to public schools, it didn't seem to reach the classroom. And so that has been very frustrating. And I would suggest part of that problem is that it's too heavy in the administrative area. Mesa Public Schools, for instance, I haven't counted how many superintendents they have, but when we send more money to education, a lot of it gets siphoned off in administration. And we know administration is extremely important and things are very expensive nowadays. Nevertheless, the rubber meets the road in the classroom, and these teachers need all the money that they should be getting to the classroom. I know when we were young, I don't know of teachers having to buy their own pencils, papers, and paper and things like that, supplies. It was supplied by the district. So there are a lot of things we need to look at, one of them being auditing the different districts. I've taken a look at the salaries for the superintendents, and quite frankly, again, we know it's a very important position. When the superintendent gets raise after raise after raise, and teachers' raises are a pittance by comparison, then something is wrong there. So again, I think there's a few things we'll disagree on, but a lot of things we'll agree on too.
Amen.
Well, we just got about 5 minutes left, so I'd like to split up the time evenly here. What do you think the priority should be in the coming legislative session in 2023? And I'll start with you, David.
Okay, well, that is a big ticket item for me because the whole reason I'm running is because of election integrity. I mean, there's a lot of important issues, but that is the issue that brought me into the race, because I am one who believes that the last election was stolen. And unfortunately, a lot of the good legislation that needed to be passed was not passed this past session. And so we need to work on it more. Now, I'm sure we will all agree that the importance of confidence in our elections is actually absolutely vital. So whether you believe that this past election 2020 was an honest election or not, I'm sure that we would agree that if people do not have confidence in their elections, there's less of a motive to go out and vote. And we already have a problem with apathy of people that say their vote does not count. And so those people who feel like it wasn't an honest election, it's like a wet blanket on them saying, why should I go again? So that's, I realized I just mentioned one thing, but I know I took up my share of my time saying that.
Thanks, David. So take us on out, Helen.
Well, I definitely disagree with Mr. Farnsworth on that the election was stolen. And I think we've had multiple myriad of instances and examples and proofs of that it was not. Just the fact that, like you said, that it does destroy impact the confidence. But the comments that, like he's making, that I hear, not just Mr. Farnsworth, that the election was stolen. It's a sad tribute to our democracy and to those of us who believe in the process. And I think that the fact that you keep saying that, I think even if you believe that, maybe it might be time to move on, because whether you think it was stolen or not, we have who we have in our leadership. And those of us who are trying to get into leadership, we have to agree, we have to compromise, we have to work together, we have to walk in truth. And I just think there's just so many things, I mean, we're looking at the insurrection, the hearings for January 6th and how everything was compromised. I'm hoping that he changes his mind and that we change the minds of a lot of other voters, that the election was not stolen, and that we continue to make sure that our elections are fair and equitable, and that we continue to have a fair transition of power. Whatever that election says, we have to abide by that. And I think we as legislators and as professionals and politicians, we need to encourage our people that the election is over. Whatever your thoughts were then, we're looking forward to 2022 and 2024, and we have to move forward, and we have to abide by what our officials have already determined, that the election was given to who are the people who are actually in office right now.
All right. Well,
Do I have just a moment to respond or no?
Yeah. We're as I said at the top, this isn't a debate, and so Helen, the question was, what should the priorities be for the next session? And Mr. Farnsworth mentioned election integrity. So
yeah, election integrity is one. I also we were talking about classrooms and the school voucher. We're talking about that. I think we need to make sure there's funding to protect our students, and like law and order to me is huge. Law and order is huge, and protecting our teachers and our staff and our children in the classroom. So I'd like to make sure our budget accommodates that. The economy, of course, it looks like it's trying to creeping back up, and things are trying to stabilize. That's a second issue. The third one is the infrastructure, and I think that I did see where the governor did. I think $1 billion for infrastructure and water resources. I think that's great. And then the economy. There's one more I can't think of right now, but I think the safety, gun, law and order, economy, stability, and education, and they all mesh together. And that's what I think my focus would be as the legislator, as I work with Mr. Farnsworth when I'm elected to the Arizona House of Representatives.
All right. Well, I appreciate your answers and your time, and we're out of time now, and we're going to move on to the next legislative district. Just want to say good luck on your campaigns, and thank you for coming.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Right. Have a good night.
Good night.
We're here now with 5 candidates from Legislative District 11. And just want to let you know, since we have so many candidates in this group, that we will probably go a little bit longer. Just remember that try to limit your comments and allow everyone else to speak, and this isn't a debate. So I just wanted to start out by introducing everybody. We have Janelle Wood, who is a Democrat running for the Senate. We have Shams Abdul Samad, who is a Democrat running for the House. Michael Butts, the Democrat running for the House, and Wes Leasy, Democrat running for the House, and Tatiana Pena, Republican running for the House. So, and I can call you Wes. Wes, I've seen.
Yes, you may. Yes, you may.
Right on. So let's get started here. You know, the first question I've asked everybody is why you're running for office. Let's start off with Tatiana, since she's the lone Republican.
Hi, I'm Tatiana Pena. Well, I was born and raised here in South Phoenix, and the reason why I decided to run for office is because I've seen so many changes happen in our community, and I wanted to make sure that we made some positive impact to change the way things have gone. Growing up in South Phoenix, we used to have a lot of green, we used to have a lot of trees, we used to have a lot of fields. It was just so wonderful, and it was always a diverse community. One thing you did not see very often at all was homelessness. And this is a crisis that we are facing. So that is a perfect example of how far our leadership has failed. And I want to make sure that we start having a good, strong voice in the community, speaking on behalf of the community in the state legislature, and making sure that we give opportunities for everyone in the community to succeed.
Thank you, Tatiana. Michael, would you care to share why you're running for office?
Sure, absolutely. So first I want to say that I'm running because, I've always lived a life of public service, and, I felt the call to lead and put my name, on the ballot for this particular race, because we have a lot of unique challenges, like Tatiana mentioned. And so in our community, in my community that I'm a part of, the African American community, we need that representation. We need that representation at the Capitol. And we need to make sure that our community does not get left behind in terms of the challenges that we're seeing and facing. And so I want to help. I want to bring my personal experience to the state capitol and make sure that we have a conversation that includes all populations as we look to our challenges that we face here in Arizona.
Thank you, Michael. Shams, would you care to pipe in?
Good evening, voters. Thank you, Arizona Capitol Times and our Arizona Clean Elections Board for organizing this event. And thank you, Mr. Gorado, and my fellow candidates. So why am I running for this office? I'm running for this office because our democracy is under attack. If anyone doubts that the democracy is under attack, I would direct them to the recent Supreme Court decisions, as well as the gerrymandering with redistricting. Right. Have in our state of Arizona. I will also point out the disregard for our Constitution and the law and order as seen in people refusing to respect COVID regulations at the federal level, the January 6th insurrection, and continuation of the big lie that our elections are stolen. So look, it's no different than when our nation was under attack and we enlisted in the service. I am enlisting in the service of our District 11 in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Shams. Nell.
Well, good evening, everyone, and good evening, Gary. It's good to see you again, and to each one of my colleagues who are attending this evening, and to our voters. My name is Janelle Wood, and as you stated before, I decided to run for state senate. What drives me is the future and hope that I want to make sure that our children have here in Arizona, here in my community. I do a lot of work for our babies. I want to make sure they have everything they stand in need of as they grow up, to have a great education, because I recognize that education is a pathway out of poverty. And as I looked at our district, as I looked at the census results, because I did work for the census, 44% of our district sits in poverty. That's a high number of individuals sitting in poverty. So we do know that if education is the pathway out of poverty, then for sure education needs to be at the foundation. That's a foundational need in our community. And we in our community really have had some challenges in our educational system in this district. And we want to make sure we're able to fund our schools. We want to make sure our teachers have what they stand in need of, because I do a lot of work with our schools, and I recognize that our teachers are under pressure. They need certain supports that they're not able to get, and they need a senator on the floor at the helm, speaking on their behalf, making sure we're speaking on hiring processes, retention of good teachers, making sure we are training up new good teachers. Our children deserve that, need that. Our parents need supports. And also we need to reduce class sizes. Those are one of the things that I'm looking at, is making sure our children have smaller class sizes, because especially after COVID, our children have faced some significant traumas. The teachers have too. So mental health counseling is very much needed on both fronts, as well as for our parents. I'm a parent advocate, do a lot of work with our parents. Our parents need that wraparound support, and they need a senator that is a mother, that is a wife, that is a daughter, that really gets it about the challenges that they face. And I want to make sure I fight for that. The other thing, like my colleague here, Sham, spoke about, was, this attack on women's reproductive rights. I've actually had to shift in my focus and address that, because I know that many of our women face challenges in this area, and that they should have a right to make some decisions about what's going on with their health and with their bodies. And so I definitely will be a voice to speak to common sense ways of making sure our women have the reproductive rights that they need. Common sense gun control. I'm running for Senate so we can make sure we have a voice in that space to speak up for those in our community that can't speak for themselves as far as gun safety, making sure our children do not have easy access to these guns that they're bringing into these schools. That's got to stop. We've got to find ways to prevent those babies from coming to school, putting others in danger. So that's just some of the reasons why I'm running. But above all, I just have a heart for our community. I have a love for our children, and I want them to be all that God had birthed them here to be. And that is why I'm running for Senate.
Thank you. And Wes.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Question for us.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Capital Times for putting on the event and say hello to my fellow candidates. The reason that I'm running is because I'm the oldest of 8 kids, and I'm actually from Mississippi. Lived there, grew up most of my life there. We grew up in a poverty situation. I was very fortunate enough to get a scholarship to go to college, paid for because of my athletic ability. I'm from Mississippi, as you well know. Arizona and Mississippi, they compete as far as the educational funding and also the output as far as the kids' education. So moving here, getting drafted by the Arizona Cardinals allowed me the ability to reach out into the community, which I always have. Even when we were young, my mom was an activist back there. So coming to Arizona, having the opportunity to play here with the Cardinals, it gave me a good opportunity to meet different people, to engage more with the community. We also work with the school system. I'm also a coach at some of the high schools and some of the junior colleges that we have here. So I had a great opportunity to talk with the parents, to talk with the coaches, to talk with the kids, and understand what they were going through as students. And me as a poor kid, knowing what those issues are. Also, too, I've been a small business owner here in Arizona, so I can understand the problems that we have here with small businesses trying to grow, and also with people trying to make a living here. I've always been a person who running on a platform of healthcare because we need it. I've had a heart attack, died for 8 minutes, so I understand the importance of that. Also, we're running on education because I feel that the best thing that we can do for our youth, for our community, for the growth of Arizona is a proper education. With proper education, it's limitless to the opportunity going to be afforded to Arizona. We're also thinking about been affiliated and help with nonprofits with housing. That's a big concern here with fair housing, also with the homelessness that's going on here in the state. I've been homeless myself, even though I've been lived the American dream from rags to riches and had my dream to play in the NFL come true. I've also been homeless, so I understand what that feels like to be there on the street and not know where your next meal is going to come from and not being able to be hired for a job. So the reason that I'm running is because I've exhausted my means to support the community. And I feel that the only way that I can make lasting change and really to bring opportunity to my community as well as the state of Arizona is to be a practical minded person that's going to government, not to be partisan, to really make change for every citizen here in Arizona. And I feel that that's what I've been hired and what I want to be serving my community to do. So I'm here to serve the opportunities, to bring opportunities to everyone across the board and make sure that things are being done. No partisanship downtown, and make sure that every person, every citizen has the opportunity to make something of themselves for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Wesley. Now, Michael, you made a comment that I had to write it down. You said that your community's being left behind. How's it being left behind, and what could you do as a legislator to catch up? And just like to remind everybody, we got about 15 minutes left, so we got 5 people. So I want to get as many questions in as I can.
Sure. Thank you for circling back on that response. And so what I was saying is that I don't want our community to be left behind. I want us to have a voice at the table, be involved in the conversation at the legislature's office. I mean, we've had that representation in our current legislation cycle right now. So we want to continue that representation going into the next year. And so what I was saying is that I don't want our community to be left behind in terms of our economic challenges that we're having, across the board, across the state.
All right, Janelle.
So in answer to that particular question, one of the things that came to mind, as I looked at some of the data in our community, as I look at healthcare, I know Wesley made a comment about running on a platform of healthcare. When we look at the data, 41% of our particular district, just according to the last census, 41% of them between the ages of 19 to 64 do not have healthcare. They do not have insurance. And so that's a very significant issue that we're going to have to address in our community, because health is critical for people to get long-sustaining jobs, for education purposes, for making sure that they are able to maintain their households and maintain a livable wage. They need good health. And so one of the things that I've recognized in our district, we don't have a hospital in this area. And we've not had a hospital for, we've never had, since I've been living here, I've never seen a hospital here. And so I want to make sure we find dollars that will lend itself to us providing health care, hospitals, ER, trauma care within our community, so that our people don't have to go all the way into Phoenix or into Levine or somewhere else to get that particular care, because minutes mean a life. And so, that's something that I look at where I believe we've been left behind, because many of our other districts, they do have good ER trauma centers, and we do not on this particular district. So we have work to do in that area. As far as education goes, we have a school district that is struggling, and we need to have all hands on deck to assist with some of the challenges that we're facing in our elementary school district here. And I'm not, I've done my job. I've been at the table working with our school boards, and we need the senators and we need our legislatures to find ways to provide the necessary supports they need, funding-wise, as well as teacher-wise, as well as parental-wise, making sure we find some dollars for parent aides to be in some of these classes to help our teachers with all these large class sizes, so we can help take some of that load off of our educators. So, and then mental health counseling in those particular districts, not only for the teachers, but for our students. And you know what? For our parents. Our parents have been through something in this district due to what happened in COVID. Many of them suffered loss of jobs. Many of them suffered a lot of health challenges. So those are things that I believe that we don't want to be left behind in, but we have been left behind when it comes to trauma centers and hospital in this particular district. And we need to get our credibility and value the people here health-wise.
Right on. Thank you, Janelle. Wesley, you had to wait to go last time, so why don't you go ahead and take the floor.
Well, when you talk about bringing the community to a certain standard. Obviously, a lot of the concerns that we have here in the district is about education. It's about having a livable wage. It's about healthcare. Teachers having the right pay. I mean, you can go down the line across our community, and it seems like, for the most part, as I walk the streets and as I talk to voters about their concerns about safety, about the future of their kids, we really need to think about how we're going to do that, how we're going to facilitate this money, because we're really talking about resources. So here in this, I talked to a couple of business people, and a lot of business people don't feel that there's no need to come into our district because there's not much there. So me as a candidate, I want to really run, really see what I can do to facilitate that relationship between public and private sectors, because in order to fund our schools and hospitals, we need to develop a tax base. And Janelle is quite correct. We don't have a hospital. That was one of the things that I wanted to run on too. Why do we have to run across town? So if I'd had my heart attack there in my district, I would have perished. So when you're talking about funding many things, you're also talking about where those dollars going to come from. So we need to develop. My big thing is, I'm a very practical minded person, is to find those dollars, make those relationships with a corporation business so we can bring that. No one wants to be dependent on government to facilitate their well-being. No person, no city. We need to be able to facilitate that by making these relationships with business so we can fund our schools and fund everything else that we need there. But it needs to be done in a careful manner, that we're not giving too much to business, but we also having a very balanced and practical-minded approach to this issue, so we can get those tax dollars, so we can address all of these issues that so many of my candidates are bringing up to bear this evening. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Tatiana. Same question that I asked Michael about, the community being left behind. If you think it's being left behind, and what can you do as a legislator?
Okay, sorry, I had to unmute real quick. Okay, so yes, I believe our community has been left behind. I really do believe that. That's the reason why I decided to step up. The one thing that is really important is that I pay attention to what our legislators have been doing here, what they are, what's going on, what are the issues, how are they voting? That really makes a difference. It's one thing to have them say one thing, it's the other thing to actually see what they've been doing. So here are some things, regardless of where we are politically, we shouldn't have these divisions. In our community really values a good education. That's why they love, if they find a great public school, they'll go to a good public school. Sometimes it means that they go to a neighboring school district. I think this is something that we need to be able to continue to protect. Sometimes it means that they go to a good charter school. Sometimes it means they want to homeschool their child. And then so many families want to do private school, but they have no financial capability of doing it. That is why I'm so proud of the fact that the Republicans in the state of Arizona finally pushed and got ESA for all through. That means that regardless of where you live or your income, the funding follows your child. If you decide to go outside the public education routes, then you have a way to financially do that. And I think this is a great blessing. Unfortunately, our elected officials here voted against that. Why would they do that? Education is a way to get people out of poverty. And we've been fighting for so long to be able to compete with other communities that are much more, rich, some other things that have been under attack that we see that our elected officials here have voted against. Parental rights. We are a community of family values. We have strong Latino families. We have strong Black families. We have strong families of all different backgrounds. And parents love the ability to raise their children and be able to set their culture and their religion to them. But those are some of the things that have been under attack. We see that Republicans are the ones that are standing for parental rights. We see that there has been ideas from California to say that children can make decisions without their parents, even decisions like going and getting an abortion without your parent knowing about it. Late-term abortion, that's another thing. Our community, we're about, again, family values. The Latino community is not for late-term abortion, right? Same with infanticide. These are things, why are our elected officials voting for that? That's not helping us. It's not helping women. Religious freedom. We should be able to feel free to say what we feel, say what we think, and not feel like we're going to be ostracized, or our jobs, that we can lose our jobs simply because we have a different point of view. So I defend that. And we haven't seen that from our elected officials. There's so many things. There is actually a page I do recommend people check out. It's vamosaz.com, VAMOSAZ.com. I actually helped put this page together. It talks about the issues and it actually shows you the receipts. It shows you how did our elected officials vote. And you can see where were our elected officials from our district. It was known as Legislative District 27. We're now Legislative District 11. We need to hold our elected officials accountable. We need elected officials to be transparent. I will be transparent. I want people to know, regardless of where you are in your political affiliation, I want to be your voice. The most important thing for me is not to be a party. The most important thing for me is to be a representative.
All right, Shams.
To keep this short, we haven't been left behind. We have been ignored. And I'm going to make noise, good noise, at the state legislature if I get elected. Thank you.
All right. Well, we got about just a few minutes left, about 6 minutes, 5 candidates. In 1 minute, tell me why you should be elected. We'll start with Shams, since you waited so long last time.
So the question is why I should be elected.
Right.
Well, I'm an election candidate. My focus will be on my district and my constituents without any outside influence. I bring science and technology to the table, which is sorely needed in this 21st century. That's why I'm running for office, and that's why I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Michael.
Sure. I should be selected to represent us at the Capitol because I've lived a life of public service. First as a Cincinnati police officer for about 3 years, and then I went back to school and got my degree at Arizona State University in communications. While I worked full-time while putting myself through college as an adult, raising 2 boys, I also volunteered for the Arizona Department of Juvenile Corrections. After receiving my bachelor's degree, I moved on to working for the state of Arizona Department of Child Safety as a case manager, managing anywhere between 40 and 60 kids in the foster care system, working with families, working with parents to help get them the skills they need to be better parents. And then also I moved into my current education career, which is right now administration at Osborne School District. But before that, I taught 5 years, 2 years, 12th graders, global perspectives, which is a course you talk about global issues and teach critical thinking skills to 12th graders. So then I was asked to come down to fifth grade and teach for 3 years social studies to 10 and 11-year-olds. And so during that time as a 5th grade teacher, you learn, you teach the students about United States democratic process. And so that background experience, I want to bring that to our community. And I believe that has prepared me to live the life of a public servant at the state capitol. And so I'm excited about doing that. It's an exciting time to get involved. And so our district needs qualified leadership, lived experiences. And so that's why I should be selected to go on and move on to the general election and win and represent our District 11 for all populations, regardless of partisanship.
Thank you, Michael. And I'll just move along the row here as I see it. Tatiana, you want to tell us why you should be elected?
Hi. So I offer difference. I offer change. That's basically what it is, you guys. I offer change. We have had same sort of leadership for way too long in our community, and I've seen it happen over and over again. And I know so many people are tired of it. Like I said, we didn't have the homelessness growing up. We never had a culture where we were attacking our law enforcement. We now are struggling to hire law enforcement, and that is really sad, and it's dangerous for our community. I want to make sure we bring these issues up and we speak up really strongly in the legislature. Even though I'm not elected, I can tell you a lot of people in the legislature, especially those in charge, they know who I am. And I definitely let them know when an issue is so important to our community that we need to do something about it. Some things about me that are really important that I think people need to understand is that I was raised by two public school teachers in the Roosevelt School District. Both my parents were immigrants. So I didn't grow up rich at all. And I saw what families were going through on a regular basis. I followed my parents in their footsteps. I became a bilingual teacher just like they did. I started teaching at Roosevelt myself. And I did teach abroad in Germany, so I had an experience over there. And then I taught in private school in California when I married my husband. So I've seen ideas that have been, more bigger government ideas come into place. And I've seen how it hurts middle class families. I've seen how it hurts small businesses. I've seen how it only brings more debt. Another thing that I have with experience is my sister. My sister's actually living in Queen Creek. Okay. During the pandemic, when everything was shut down over here, Queen Creek was open. It was a whole different world. We go visit my sister over there. Everything was fine. They had the public schools open. Kids were learning. And this wasn't a racial thing. This was not because, oh, we're in the South Side and all the white people. No, it wasn't anything like that. You could come from South Phoenix, move to Queen Creek, and you have those opportunities. What did I notice was the difference? It was leadership. That was a difference. Like good leaders, you get a good community. You get someone advocating for you and making sure you get what you want. If you have someone who's not doing what they're supposed to do, if you have someone who, when COVID took place, they decided they're not essential and they're going to go hide. I told people this in 2020, and I mean it again. I'm an essential worker. If it means that I have to put myself in a plastic box, with an oxygen tank to keep myself alive, I guarantee you, I will be there at the legislature, making sure that we work on these issues that are so important, that are impacting your lives. That is the type of worker I am. So that is why I'm running, and that's why you should vote for me. You can go visit my website. It's TatianaPena4AZ.com. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tatiana. Wes. You're muted there, sir.
Thank you for the question. Well, the reason I think that I'm the man for the job or the person for the job, because I'm a very practical minded and a person who believes in opportunity. I think this is the biggest thing that we have that right now, as a lot of my candidates have alluded to, the polarization that's going on here in the legislature. My opportunity to serve is based on serving people. I'm a person that would open doors, that anyone could come to me and talk to me, because I'm a great listener and I believe in action. So I'm not a politician, although I'm trying to be one, trying to be the best one that we have here. I think to be a statesman representing not only Democrats, but also Republicans, therefore serving the state and the district as a whole, is what makes me the better candidate here in this situation. The best thing we can offer our kids, and the big thing that I'm going to be pushing, is definitely education and jobs, and definitely opportunity. With opportunity, jobs, and that ability to bring that to the table and reach across the aisle on both sides, not play partisanship and be a real servant of the people, is really what we need our Arizona representatives, senators to be here, is to represent the state and represent the people. And whatever that means reaching across the aisle, being practical minded, and bringing those solutions to the table to serve Arizonians, so we can make this a great state for our kids and for our family. And also to help people realize that this is America. The American dream is what we're after, opportunity for everyone. And that's what I'm behind. No matter what it takes, if I got to do whatever it is, I'm here to serve the people. And that's why. My open-mindedness, my practicality, and belief in opportunity for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Janelle, take us out.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you to all of my fellow colleagues. I echo many of what you have said, but what I do believe, the reason why I should be elected is because we need leadership. We need someone with courage to stand up when it's needed, someone to show up, to speak the truth when it needs to be spoken, and not to do it in a way that creates division, but creates collaboration. I believe I need to be elected because I am a bridge builder. I do a lot of work right now in our community where I go into tough, conflicting situations, and we come out at the end of that conversation in a peaceful, resolute manner. Now, we may not see it as a win-win, but we sure enough see it as a I can live with, can live with. And that's something that we have to get to. As a legislature, our constituents depend on our legislature to come up with common sense laws that make sense, legislation that does not adversely impact whole communities, legislation that builds up the whole of our state. Everyone in every one of our communities should be considered when we pass legislation, and those voices need to be brought to the table, and those voices need to be a part of helping to shape our bills and our legislation because they know what's best for them. This is what I do. I bring people to the table. I ask them what it is they like to see happen, and we work together to shape the verbiage, to shape the resolution that they need, because I don't live in every section of my district. They do. And so I need to bring people to the table. And so if you want a leader, not a politician, but a leader, someone to come in with the courage to say what needs to be stated when it needs to be stated, not to tear down, but to build up, to provide an avenue and a pathway for solution, then you need to look at electing me. And my website, if you want more information on me, is www.janellefораrizona.com. I thank you for the time, and thank you, Gary, and Arizona Capital Times for this opportunity to speak.
And I want to thank you all for coming, and I'm sure your voters got to know you a little bit tonight. And of course, this will be on YouTube, and you can direct them our way and see what you had to say. And just want to say, good luck to everybody on the campaign, and maybe we'll be seeing some of you down at the legislature. Have a good night.
Good evening, everyone.
Good night. Have a good evening. Thank you. Bye.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Gary Grotto, the executive editor of the Arizona Capital Times, and we're about to start the last legislative district that is going to meet the voters tonight, and it's Legislative District 12. And with us is Mitzi Epstein, who you're running for the Senate, I believe, right? Yeah, she's a Democrat running for the Senate. Paul Weish, who is a Democrat running for the House. Sam Wong, if I pronounce that wrong, please let me know. He's a Democrat. Good. I'm sorry?
It's very good.
Okay. Democrat running for the House, Patty Contreras, Democrat running for the House, and Stacey Travers, who is a Democrat running for the House. So just want to remind everybody that we're not doing a debate. It's just to introduce yourself to the voters here, and so there's no debating, I guess. So the first question is, why are you running for office? And I'll direct it. Mitzi can Representative Epstein can answer first, since she's been down there. And why do you want to go back?
Well, it is one of the most wonderful jobs there is, in that you get to meet so many people, and I enjoy meeting people everywhere I go, but in our community especially. So I'm running for the state Senate because Arizonans deserve better funding for education, more affordable housing, options, lots of options, high quality jobs, and sustainable water solutions. Water is such a big, important job right now. It's a complex problem. It has complex solutions, and these are the things that I love to work on, are big puzzles and big problems to be solved. But now more than ever, we also need legislators who will fight for our rights to vote, to have access to reproductive health care, to be, even just to be our authentic selves. All these things are under attack, and even clean air. With the latest SCOTUS ruling, I am that experienced legislator who can get things done for the people of Arizona.
Thank you, Mitzi. And we'll move on to Stacy. I must have mispronounced your name. Is it Travers?
It is indeed.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Why do you want to run for, or why do you want to go to the legislature?
Basically, I see a world of opportunity getting smaller for our future. As Mitzi has mentioned, whether our children will have access to quality education, whether they'll be safe at schools, will they have clean air and clean water, and will the young women of our future have the ability to make their own family planning and healthcare decisions. And so as a parent and as somebody who is part of the community, I feel a responsibility to be part of the change that's going to help shape their future. And so that is why I'm running.
Thank you, Stacy. Patty, why don't you take it?
Sure. So I've been a public servant for all of my career, basically. I just retired from the city of Phoenix, and I just feel like giving back. I've always worked with people. I've always given back to the community, done stuff for the community. This is a different role, of course. Instead of working the policy that gets passed down to me, it'd be actually producing policy for the constituents and all. But I really feel, since I'm a native of Arizonan, that I really want to help this state improve its stature and not be the unfortunate butt of jokes at every 10:30 show. And so, increase our school funding. I want to help seniors. I ran senior programs for 25 years for the city of Phoenix, and just want to make sure that they can have a dignified life and as we all grow older. As education funding, with two of my sisters being teachers, I've heard it for almost 30 years about how the schools have gone, have just regressed in, both the funding and what we just need to improve our school system, our public school system. So I just love the state. My family's been here for 110 years, and I really just want to improve it for everyone and all of Arizonans.
Thank you, Patty. Paul, and I understand I mispronounced your name too, Paul Wyke.
That's okay. Thank you, Gary. Well, I'm running because I believe I can help move Arizona forward. As an election law attorney, as a journalist who's lived and been active in the Southeast Valley for 30 plus years, I have the experience and the skill sets, I think, to hit the ground running, not only in the general election, but once I'm in the legislature. I've developed my own strong voice over these many years as well. I'm older than most of my friends who are also running, and I'm prepared to use my voice to speak out and work for everyone, no matter political party, gender identity, race, income level, etc. And I know our election system from many different perspectives. I've been involved in just about every even-numbered year election over the last 30 years, all over the state. I've been as an attorney, as a journalist, as a poll worker, as a poll observer, as a troubleshooter. I've always been there making sure that our elections are run properly and smoothly. I know we have good laws, we have good systems, election systems, we have good people running those systems. So I know that we have fair, safe, and accurate elections. And when people are trying to, at the legislature or wherever, are trying to limit our voting options based on this false information, it's a fraudulent system, or that there's that the laws are being abused. I know that that's not true, and I want to go to the legislature and be there to stand up and speak out and protect our voting rights and our democracy. Because when you're trying to limit the options based on false information, it's really voter suppression. So that's the main catalyst why I'm standing up and speaking out and running for office after so many years helping other people, helping Mitzi and Sean and Jennifer and other people run for office. So that's the catalyst, but there's so many other issues that I'm passionate about. Abortion rights. I'm going to go to the legislature to protect our rights. There are other rights that can be taken away after the Supreme Court's ruling, same-sex marriage, contraception, et cetera. I want to make sure that at the legislature, we're working with and doing what the majority of Arizonans, no matter what their political party, they want us to do and protect abortion rights in Arizona so that we don't become a place where we can't make our own reproductive healthcare decisions. We don't have bodily autonomy. I've been a public education advocate. 5 years ago, I fought against the initial big expansion of school vouchers with Save Our Schools. And I'm already a petition hub and notary. We're going to be successful on fighting this new universal voucher expansion that was just signed into law. We're going to go ahead and stop that. So many other issues that I haven't even had the chance to touch on. But that's why I'm running for office, to address all these issues. Thanks.
And several more, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sam.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam. I come from Taiwan 29 years ago. I want to get my PhD and go back to Taiwan and become a Minister of Education someday. Of course, many stories happened during the time, and I end up become American citizen in 2006. And when I come to United States, I want to learn as much as possible. I want to learn good things, bad things about United States. And I have kept that habit since then. So I come to, when I become a U.S. citizen, I think, okay, now I'm a United States citizen. I want to use my knowledge, my passion to help this country for the future too. So United States is a great country, but we also have a lot of problems, and especially social problems. And my campaign is focused more on social problems. And number one, we keep being the most expensive country that have the health care. We are extremely expensive for the same service. If we have insurance, the cost could be 30 to 300 times of the same service in Taiwan, and probably also very expensive to many other countries too. And so I have found out it's not too difficult to know the cost. A penny saved is a penny earned. And we do have a lot of people who cannot afford our health care. Number two was beyond education. If possible, if possible, I would like to mandate every student graduate with a vocational certificate or a license. You know, when someone after 12 years of full-time study and still cannot make a living, that's wrong, and unfortunately, that's the case. And unfortunately, that's why we have so many people who may not shoot for college, but they still go to college. And we have so many people who are on the street, and we have so many people. Last time we have 45% of adults who do not pay any income tax, and this is really a serious issue. So I'm not saying what we are doing are going to solve other problems, but if we have 5% or 10% less of the dependent population, we are doing very well. Number three, nobody mentioned that, high-speed railroad. It's something about 200 miles per hour. The cost is similar to highway. And this is important. We are a big country. We need that kind of infrastructure. It's comfortable, it's cleaner, it don't use gasoline. It's cheaper, and it can create millions of jobs and lead to long-lasting prosperity. When we have more people paying tax, we're going to have more revenue, and we can use those revenue to fund more programs to make more benefit for the people. We have been talking about, hey, education is very important, healthcare is very important. We want to raise the teacher's salary and all other programs. But where is the money come from? So my candidacy is focused on economy and the quality of life. So number 4, many.
Sam,
yes.
Can you wrap it up in about 15 seconds?
Sure, definitely. So if you want a society that's sustainable, and Sam Huang would be your best choice. And I am truly visionary on things. And I also have direct experience working as a city council member. I know how government work. And I want to become a state representative because we have many things that need to be solved at the state level. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. So next question is, what do you think is the job of a legislator? Patty, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So our job, or my job as a legislator, would be to listen to the constituents, find out what their concerns are, and then work to help them with their concerns. The main job, of course, of the state legislature is to pass a budget. And the budget is, should be based on what people want. I've always thought about the government by the people, for the people. So for us, the Arizonans, the constituents, what would best be for all of us. Now, public education to me is where we should spend a lot of our money, of course, but I also think we need to help some of our less, some are disenfranchised and marginalized people, such as our seniors, such as folks who are experiencing homelessness, such as folks who don't have the means to help themselves as much. That would be maybe increasing TANF for right now. They have that program for just a year, maybe it's increasing that for the 5 years that the federal government allows for. So those are some of the jobs, to talk to your constituents, find out what their needs are, and then work towards fulfilling those goals. Also to take a look at some of the laws that are already on the books and, maybe tweak them a little bit, maybe get rid of some of them, and maybe, propose new laws that would help better our state. So that's what I see as a state legislature. That would be my job.
Thank you, Stacy. You're muted.
There's always one of those. There's always one of those during a Zoom, and that one was me. Thank you so much for the question. There's an old Basque saying that goes, a thread usually breaks from where it is thinnest. And, for the fabric of our community to be strong, we have to understand our relationships and how we solve our biggest challenges. And as the role of a legislator, you are that advocate for the community at the state level that helps create community and strengthening those bonds, whether that's advocating for those that need help, whether that's having those relationships across various state levels to help solve problems. It needs to be somebody who has the ability to be that conduit and advocate for improving the lives of our community. So whether, as Patty very eloquently said, whether it's creating a law, whether it's rescinding a law, whether it's trying to help constituents that have various needs within the district, you need to be that voice and that representative for the community and that voice for the voiceless that can't be heard.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Sam, would you care to answer that? And just want to remind everybody, we got about 8 minutes left.
Sure, thank you very much. So a legislator's job is to pass the budget and make laws. That's what we know. And beside that, of course, a legislator should be a leader to lead the society and also to be a follower. I always believe a good leader is also a good follower. If you cannot follow, you cannot lead. So I have the knowledge, the vision, and the passion to lead. And I also influence to listen to what people need. So I think that's the job for legislator. Thank you.
Thank you. Mitzi.
Thank you. Well, in addition to what's been mentioned, the budget and representing people, basically helping the people of Arizona to, in whatever way we can help. But I think that what's really important in my job is to represent the people. So there are legislators who feel it's their job to be sort of a board of director, just bring their judgment, make decisions. I believe that I'm really a representative, and that's why I have many open forums every year. In addition to knocking the doors and getting out to meet with people everywhere I go, the things that I've gotten done, the work on mental health care, unemployment insurance reform, family caregiver grants, and so on, have all happened because I have regular meetings with large groups of people, from, psychologists and social workers to parents and survivors of suicide and the insurance companies. The idea is the more perspectives you bring together in a stakeholder meeting, the stronger the law is going to be in the long run. And that's what I look for when I'm looking at other people's proposed bills. I want to know, who have you brought this to? Because a bad way to do it is the way the budget was done, passed in the middle of the night with no chance for public comment, really, in a practical matter. So I believe in bringing in the public, lots of public comment, because these are your laws and you should have a voice in it.
All right, thank you, Paul.
Yes, I'll definitely I get to back clean up and build on what Mitzi and everybody else said so well. And yes, I agree that it's in the name, representative, and that's what I intend to do. I've already started to get so many inputs as I've been talking to people one-on-one and in groups that it really gives me a lot of different perspectives. I'm not just bringing my life experiences and my skill sets to the legislature. I'll be bringing the input from all the people that I've talked to, and there are many ideas. I've already received some great ideas from them as well on mental health, on community colleges, investing in our community colleges and our universities. I've had some great conversations, and I'm going to focus on reaching solutions for the many problems that I talked about in the previous question. I'm not going to be shy about reaching across the aisle when I can find an outstretched hand or an open mind. Of course, that's different than trying to single-handedly cut deals. You're not only a representative, but you're part of a Democratic caucus. I intend to be part of the Democratic caucus and bring my values, work with the other leaders and good people in the Democratic caucus, many of whom have been here and have already tried to introduce bills that have made it or that haven't made it, that we need to keep pushing forward on. So I'll be working with them, but still trying to use my skills to reach across and come up with good solutions. We've seen the majority making too many political statements out of the budget and out of bills, and not enough good laws. So we definitely need to work on that too. And I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. We got like 5 minutes left. Got 5 candidates. Tell me why you should be elected. Stacy. Don't forget your mute.
And I'm that person again. Oh my goodness. As Paul said, it's about, bringing your life experience and your skill set, to the job. And somebody, I've said it again because I do feel it's really important, but, it's funny. I'm a scientist, I have a BSc in geology. And if I'm elected, would be somebody who understands our water and climate issues and could help work those and help translate to the other members in the House and Senate so that we all have a better understanding of the issues that we need to deal with. I'm also a United States Army veteran, and defending our freedoms has always been very important to me. It's what I fought for. I represented the United States overseas. Honesty, integrity, honor, trust are things that I feel that we need to bring back into the legislature. We have that already, but we need to reinforce it as an ideal, and we need to be able to represent with the openness and integrity that the people deserve. And I'm also a mom, to two girls 4 and 8 years old, and I worry about their future, whether they're going to have, as I said before, access to education, safety at schools. And it's funny, as we go, as we've been doing all these debates and as we're kind of going around, we all have our same little stump speech. And I always talk about, being a scientist and being a veteran and being a mom. And I guess they're not necessarily who or what I am. They're why I'm running. I'm running because as a scientist, I feel like I have an obligation to the future to help with our science, a fact-based perspective to dealing with climate and water issues. As a veteran, it's not about being a veteran. It's about defending our freedoms and everything that we stand for as Americans. And as a mom, it's our future and our children and our grandchildren, and trying to create laws and policies that have more than one cycle effect, and having that forward-thinking ability that I feel like a lot of other politicians don't have. And so I guess it's important to me that people understand that it's not just, a stumpy speech like, hey, I'm a scientist. It's so much more than that. Yes, it's a way to define me as who or what I am, but it's so much more as a dimensional person. It's why why I'm running. And so I feel like I am a voice to the voiceless, and I can be. All right, I need to go. It's just that this is not a game. It's not about ego. It's not about who's entitled to the seat because they've been here the longest. It's about who has the passion and the fire and who has the desire to create real change. And that's why I'm running. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stacey. And we're running up on 8 o'clock, and the rates go up at 8. So, Patty.
Well, I'll make it quick, but I'm running because I really believe that we need to move our state forward. I have a long-time career of working in government, and I believe that I have the skill set needed for being in the state legislature. I've worked collaboratively with other groups, many different types of groups. I've done budgeting. I've worked with people to meet their needs, met them one-on-one. So I really have the skill set to work across the aisle, to talk to people, to get things done, and to manage our budget. And I'm like I said before, I love the state. My family's been here over 100 years, and we really want to improve our stature in the country, in the world, and improve our school funding, improve our help for our homeless population, and help for our seniors. So I just really hope to have your support for all the LD12, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to tell us why they should vote for you?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not because I've been active in our district for 30 years. It's not because it's not just because I'm an election law attorney or a journalist or people like Stacey said. It's not a stump speech. We all have a passion and the fire to make Arizona a better place and to represent our wonderful LD12, our Ahwatukee, Chandler, Tempe area. But it's having the experience, having the voice and the skills to go ahead and make a difference and represent our district properly. I believe that my experiences, my skill sets will allow me to do that. It will allow me to be a strong legislator. It will allow me to be a strong candidate in the general election. And I'm ready to do that. I've spent, I never thought I'd be in this position in front of the camera. I've always been helping out other candidates in other ways. But what is happening to our state, to our democracy, has really forced me to stand up and speak out. And I can make a difference for LD12 and for Arizona. And I hope that that the Democratic voters in LD12 cast at least one of their, well, just one of their votes for me in the State House race. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. And Sam?
Hello, everybody. United States is a great country. We don't need to make it great again, but we do need to make it better. I feel pretty sad about our situation right now. Republicans, the toleration has been gone, not like during the Reagan administration. And on the other part, Democrat part, we really need to think about Roosevelt, really need to think about Clinton, not economy.
Sam,
we becoming Democrat now, and I'm subscribed Democrat value. But how to achieve those value? You need money, you need infrastructure. It's quality of life that's really matter. And then we can talk about anything else. We need to create a good economy. We need to make people's quality of life better. And I believe
You're on mute again there, Sam. Sam, you're on mute again.
I think his rates went up too.
All right, well, let's move on to you, Mitzi, and you get to close out the evening.
Well, since we're out of time, I'm simply going to say that I am your current state representative. It's a pleasure and honor always to serve the people of our community. I am running for the state level Senate, and I thank all these wonderful candidates who are running for the House. It's a huge undertaking, and it's all about service. So thank you for running, and I look forward to the general election when I will have more opponents, any opponents.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming tonight. And I want to thank our viewers for tuning in and spending 2 hours with us tonight. And I also want to thank the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission for sponsoring this. And tomorrow night, we're going to do legislative districts 13 through 18. And so please come on back. I'll be here, and you can see a whole new slate of candidates. All right. Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Great opportunity.